The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, and thank you for joining today's webinar, LinkedIn Rock Your Profile. I'm Marcia Silva, Marketing and Communications Director with the HERC Central Office. My colleague, Jessica Weiss, Training and Development Director, is my co-host. First, I'll take a moment to review some quick logistics. All HERC job seeker webinars offer captioning by caption access. For now, you are all in listen-only mode, but we hope you will actively engage in the conversation. You have the opportunity to submit your questions through the GoToWebinar question box. On your screen, you will see a GoToWebinar control panel, which is where you'll find the question box. Throughout the webinar, if you have a question, you can enter it at any time. If you're having any trouble with the sound, please click on the audio drop-down button to retrieve the call-in number. If the problem persists, please inform us using the Q&A function. The recording of this webinar will be posted in the Career Advice Webinars section on hercjobs.org. You will receive a follow-up email when the recording is available. In the unlikely event the webinar ends prematurely, please just call back again in a couple of minutes. We will be monitoring the question box and will do our best to assist you. HERC is a nonprofit consortium of colleges, universities, and related groups committed to advancing diversity, equity, and inclusion in the higher education workforce. HERC provides job seekers with comprehensive and transparent access to job opportunities and free career resources, including our newest ebook, Having Our Say, Black Voices on Working in Higher Education. During today's webinar, you'll learn about the difference between your resume and your LinkedIn profile, how to leverage LinkedIn for networking, and more. Our speaker, Bryant Ramirez, will also be live coaching, and later we'll be asking for volunteers to share their LinkedIn profile and engage with Bryant for feedback and tips to improve them. Bryant Ramirez is an associate on the Member and Customer Experience team at LinkedIn and a LinkedIn Rock Your Profile ambassador. On the Member and Customer Experience team, Bryant leads efforts in building customer intelligence capabilities and designing new service models to deliver more value to LinkedIn's customers. As a Rock Your Profile ambassador, he works with diverse and underrepresented audiences to better leverage the power of LinkedIn's platform and network. He is an alum of UCLA and the University of Texas at Austin, and in his spare time, he enjoys rock climbing, playing guitar, and traveling, having been to over 60 countries and 6 continents. He's also an ice cream connoisseur. Welcome, Bryant.
Thank you so much, Marcia, and thank you, Jessica, and thank you, everyone, for taking valuable time today to meet with me, and I hope to give you as much value back. So why don't we get started? I really want to add a lot of value to you today and help you rock your profile and beyond. So let's talk about what we're going to do today. Our agenda is jam-packed. We're going to start with talking about the power of LinkedIn. We know that it's a powerful platform. We know it's the go-to place for professional networking, but is there more to that? We'll talk a little bit about that. We'll talk about why you need both a LinkedIn profile as well as a resume. And then we'll start to look at the profile itself, tell your story, and then look at how we can better engage on the platform so we can turn that engagement into employment, into new opportunities. Also talk about building your thought leadership as well as gaining knowledge and insights. We'll have some time for Q&A, and then my favorite part of this will be some live coaching. So as Marcia mentioned, any of you who want to go on stage and get some live coaching on your profile, please include your LinkedIn profile in the chat, and we'll select a few of you to participate. So let's get started. The power of LinkedIn. So some of you may know our vision. Our vision is to create economic opportunity for every member of the global workforce. It's really one reason I love working at a company like LinkedIn, where I know each and every one of you will find your next opportunity, whether it's a job, whether it's a connection, whether it's new business. on our platform. And our mission is to connect the world's professionals to make them more productive and successful. I truly believe those of you on the call today, those of you who are seeking opportunities, particularly in higher education, will find that next opportunity. And by taking some of the steps that you'll learn today, by taking some action, I think you're going to get to that next level sooner than later. So this is my goal. My goal is simply to be a catalyst for you, to unlock those next steps of your professional journey. So why engage on LinkedIn? Well, there's many reasons. One is to communicate your brand. If you think about it, if you're to search for yourself, you would probably find your LinkedIn profile first. People are looking up your LinkedIn profile before anything else. And it's not just for jobs, it's simply for opportunities in general. Allows you to connect with others. We have over 3/4 of a billion professionals on the platform. I'm sure that a few connections here or there will lead to opportunities. And that's really what we're all about. We're all about creating new opportunities for every single member. So some very powerful stats. Actually, I think this has updated since I updated this slide a few days ago. Now we're up to 755 million members. Millions, over 50 million companies, millions and millions of jobs. And I can tell you that hiring has increased significantly over the past several months. Thousands and tens of thousands of schools and tens of thousands of skills that are represented among those members on LinkedIn. And tons of other stats here. I won't read all of these, but basically over the last year, engagement has increased significantly. Folks are talking, folks are having conversations, meeting new people, as well as reconnecting with those folks who they've already met previously. And video has become an increasing part of our engagement, significant increases in live streams broadcasting. And here's a post from a friend of mine who basically said, and this was maybe like a week ago, he said, wow, I found every opportunity that I've had in my professional career through LinkedIn. So I think if we just work on a few things, and we'll talk about that today, you can absolutely find your next opportunity and optimize for that. 9 out of 10 recruiters and hiring managers use LinkedIn. I actually think it's more than that, but because they do, you should as well. So now let's talk about the resume and the LinkedIn profile. And a lot of people just go, why don't I just put my resume into the LinkedIn profile and just call it a day? You know, just copy and paste, and that's about it. Well, here's why. You want to optimize for both because they serve different purposes. When I look at a resume, for example, and I've been hiring folks. I've been looking at thousands of resumes over the last several weeks, and I look at the resume as a top hits. I spend maybe 15 seconds on a resume, 20 seconds on a resume, just to get an understanding, is this person qualified? It's really meant to be that those top hits. Your headlines, basically, here's what I did, here's the result. If your resume is not doing that, it's not effective, and it's meant for that purpose. Now, those of you on the call are likely, you have CVs. I'm sure you have a bit longer CVs than just a standard quote business resume. It's just fine, but I still think it serves that same purpose. Whereas everybody's on LinkedIn, they're thinking of you as a person. Now they're thinking about, let me think about you holistically. What is your personality like as a professional? Who are you? Who are you going to be? How can I imagine you working on my team? How would you contribute? Two different purposes. You have to optimize for each. So in the LinkedIn profile, you should think about the narrative, the story you want to tell, so that you can build that persona and they can gain deeper insights about you as a human being. And it should be for anybody, right? The resume, you should tailor that to every opportunity. Say you're applying for a job, you should tailor your resume for that job. Look at the job description, tailor it. Your LinkedIn profile should be representative of you. And we'll talk a bit about some nuances of how you can really optimize that LinkedIn profile, starting with the resume, building upon that. All right, so let's start telling your story. These are the 10 steps to rocking your profile. Now, I will provide a very abbreviated version of this slide deck. I don't want to give everything because I think there are a few things that I think really matter. So I'll provide that as a reference. But I definitely think if you're going to take notes on what you can do to take action. Don't just copy what's on the slide. Take notes on, I need to do that. They're talking about that. let me do this specific thing. Let's be very action oriented, okay? All right, step one, simple, add a photo, add a photo. So have you looked at your photo lately? Is this something that really represents you? It doesn't have to be, you don't have to be in a suit and tie or anything, overly formal. In fact, if you're, say you're a medical professional, why don't you wear your white coat? If you are a music professional, I work with music professionals, they could be in action, right? You could be relatively casual if you want to call it casual, but definitely be representative and really highlight you, because having a photo really matters. It will dramatically increase engagement. Speaking of photos, that background photo, that cover photo, is your canvas. Now, here's Nolan, and I've asked him for permission to use his cover photo because I absolutely love what he did here. He used this as a collage, and he's young, he's a college student, but I get a sense a bit about him. And you don't have to do some fancy collage like this. You could, but you can represent yourself in some way or represent something that matters to you. So I imagine if you're a professor or if you're a researcher, you could show yourself in action, whether it's at a lecture, or if you're a researcher and you spend a lot of time in the laboratory, show yourself in the laboratory. Think about how you can use this as, again, demonstrating a bit more about your persona, who you are, and give someone a really clear sense of, yeah, this is who I am. I'm really proud of it. I'm really proud of what I do. This is your visual canvas. Third is your location, your industry, simple stuff. But some people omit this. Some people just forget. But on the back end, people are going to be looking at your location. People are going to try to find folks likely closer to you. Well, remote maybe these days a little different, but still, if you're trying to work in a specific geography, definitely make sure your location is set to that geography. Fourth is your headline. Now here's my profile. If you visit my page, you can see a bit about like what I stand for. Like, I hope this represents a bit about me. And my headline is, I love turning data and insights into meaningful value, powerful action, and delightful customer experiences. I strive to maximize the potential of our collective strengths. You'll see in a bit, I'll show you why this really, really matters on the back end on a practical basis. But if you think about this, these first 4 steps, I call this your postcard. Think about a postcard that you received from a friend. You're traveling and they're traveling, and then you see it, and I'm sure there are postcards you're like, what is this? Like, you're not really impressed. If some postcards really impress you, you really want to impress somebody, or at least not necessarily like you have to stun them, but you definitely want to use this as an opportunity for you to say, like, I'm really interested. I want to scroll down. I want to spend more time really understanding this person as a professional, really seeing, is this person somebody I want to connect with? Is this somebody that I want to work with? And the more you invest up here and then down below, you're absolutely going to see the dividends. So work on this postcard, these first 4 steps. Use this as your billboard. So here's a pro tip. If you love data, say it. If you love customers, say it. If you love strengths, say it. And think of this as like a tweet sized portion at the top of your page that you can absolutely really showcase who you are, what you love to do, and what drives you professionally. You can absolutely do all of that. Most people will spend this section on a title. It's actually a waste of space because you already have your title down below. I would say you can represent, like I put CX at LinkedIn. It's a very clear way if those in customer experience see it. In fact, I use the word customer experience in my headline, so I don't need to spend those characters on customer experience. People who know CX know CX. So this always changes too. This always evolves. So you don't, you can use what you use now, and then of course you can evolve it later on, right? All right, so let's go even further into the profile. We'll talk about the summary. So some people ask, okay, you have this big summary section, you get, I don't know, you get 2,700 characters, something. This is huge. You have a lot of space. Here's my recommendation here. This is like your elevator pitch, and you kind of have 2 sections. They're very implied. There's a first section is to get about like 4 or 5 lines. Let's just say a small paragraph. And then you have to click more and then you see the rest. I would say, think about that first section. What do you want somebody to see immediately? That's where you really put on the pitch. I'll give you an example. I worked with a group who works with music professionals to help them build their music careers, whether they're a musician themselves or a producer. Really think of anything, or marketer, anything in the music industry. So it's not, the typical business industry, right? I clearly remember this young woman who said, I remember when I was 8 years old, every month my grandfather took me to the Apollo Theater. And I just saw these wonderful acts. I was just so amazed, so mesmerized, so immersed that I knew from that age, I wanted to be a musician. I wanted to help musicians. And I couldn't figure it out then, but I knew that was my path, to become a music producer. Within a few sentences, I could see everything. And what I recommended to her when we did live coaching is show that, like put the Apollo Theater up at the top. Maybe you're there. Maybe you can put a collage together. Because if you add that as a cover photo, and then on top of that, you have in your summary, the first few sentences, you have that brief story, I really get a sense of who you are. Each and every one of you have that story. I know you do. Have you really leveraged it? Have you maximized it? Every single one of us can do more to do that. Okay, now is the section that everybody plops in their resume, and that's okay. You can start with your resume here in your detailed experiences. It's totally fine. But I would say, just like in every resume, you're going to be tailoring that specific to an opportunity, specific to a job. Well, you should not. I pick and choose, you know, for me, because if you're applying to a lot of things, but definitely the ones you want the most, you definitely want to tailor it. So for customer experience, I would use some language that are more customer centric, for example. It's definitely something I look for when I'm looking at candidates. But here you can see, for example, here's just a generic example where they talk about sales, but it's not just a bunch of bullet points. Now they added some narrative around it. So you not only see here's the results, but you also see, you can kind of visualize them in action, right? So that's, to me, a very optimal, detailed experience section. And you can see their title too. This is where your title will show up. So that's why I wouldn't spend the characters at the top with your full title. Perhaps you can briefly say what you do now, but if anything, like a lot of you have a discipline. If you're a researcher, you have a specific discipline. If you're a professor, you have a specific discipline. So just start with that discipline. What excites you there? And each and every one of you have something you can really dive into that really shows who you are and what matters to you most. So here's just, you think about the levels. It's like peeling back an onion, right? Peeling back an onion. We're going deeper, deeper, deeper into this onion. And now we have volunteer experience. This tends to be something people drop off on their resume, but of course we all know, and I'm sure almost all of you have some version of philanthropy, volunteerism. This is definitely a section people look at. Some people neglect, or some people just don't add much color to this. It really starts to round you out as a person. So add to your volunteer experience, like just put what you're doing already. I'm sure you're already doing something magnificent. Using the space for rich media. So whether it's a video or whether it's an article, whether it's, I'm sure a lot of you have done research, so you must have a publication. Use this space. There's space right below your summary. There's space right below every experience. So you can decide, well, I want this research at the top, and then maybe like I've had these 3 roles, I want to add a few links to an article or a video or like a YouTube that I've done for these specific roles. So you can absolutely decide where to place these. There's many places you can use rich media, but definitely adding more to your portfolio. Think of this as a living, breathing professional portfolio. I know some of you also probably have a website of your own, and this doesn't replace your website. It works coincide, but I can guarantee that there are many more people going on LinkedIn than there are going specific to your website. So have your website as very, very detailed, specific to you. Link it here. Perhaps it's at the top, but you definitely want to make sure they work in tandem. Now we start thinking about skills and endorsements and social proof, right? So you're going to start putting out your skills out there. Now, this is definitely something I emphasize, especially for folks who are starting in their career, but regardless, like I think each and every one of us has a specialty, add it here, put it out there, and then get endorsements, get folks who will say, yeah, I know this person knows customer experience or business intelligence, or if you're a physicist, or if you're a marine biologist, or if you're an anthropologist, whatever field you're in. Add these skills here in the section and get the endorsements, because we're now thinking about the social proof. That's the biggest power of the platform, is the social proof, are those social connections. And the best social proof of all are those recommendations. So I know a lot of us have seen this section, maybe have a couple recommendations, maybe they're kind of old. So definitely get recommendations when you can, and get them as soon as you can. That's appropriate. So if you're like ending a role, for example, or someone's ending a role and they're your report, like think of every way in which you can get a quick soundbite, because again, this will provide an opportunity to get more color. And now you have social proof, someone vouching for you, and vice versa. You'll be able to see the recommendations they have given. All right. So recapping the 10 steps, this is a slide I will give you guys. So just know you'll have this as a reference. Your photo. So I've seen some photos where people actually put like a camera in front of them because they're a photographer. And I'd say, don't block your face, but in your background photo, if you want to show you as a photographer, go ahead. And that's a perfectly great spot to show you capturing a photo. Maybe it's a wedding, whatever it might be. Industry, location, all those little tidbits, all that metadata that's part of your profile, make sure it's there, make sure it's updated. That headline, those first four I call the postcard. Then you have the summary. You have the kind of the two implied sections. The first section about small paragraph, a few sentences that everybody will see, and then there's a see more, and then you have a lot more space to add more color. Then you have the work experience section, which you can start with your resume, but add so much more color to that. Volunteer experiences, examples of your work through rich media, skills and endorsements, and of course, those recommendations. All right. And again, if you have any questions, we'll have a Q&A section at the end. So please note your questions and we will get to those. All right. Now, as I said, I told you, well, what happens in the background? This is the view for LinkedIn Recruiter. And I actually took the liberty to apply for my own job because I wanted to see what this would look like. And I wanted to show you exactly what a recruiter would see. This is exactly what they see. It's literally, this is a screenshot of the product. And you can see right there, that's the postcard. That's the postcard up there. So if you're spending that space on that next line, that experience line, right? So you can see my title there. It's repetitive. So you just wasted space. You wasted a tweet-sized portion of your profile that's at the top that everybody sees. Don't waste this space. Utilize that, optimize it, make it something that will catch someone's attention, especially here whereas when I was reviewing 1,000+ candidates, I don't have all day to do it. I need to make a quick decision on whether or not this person should continue or not. And I'm looking very holistically at their experience, but I gotta see at the top, okay, could this person be a plausible fit at all? And I have maybe half a minute, maybe a minute at most to really make that decision, if not less time. If you really think about 1,000 times 1 minute, that's a whole day, very, very stressful day, right? So it actually was way less time. So make it as easy as possible for people to make that decision. Yes, I want to click further. I want to spend more time on your profile. Make it so appealing that somebody just really wants to get to know you. Fill out all those sections, because if it's blank, it will show a blank and I'll question it. Why is this blank? There's somebody that had probably a really good resume, but because they were blank and then they didn't have a stronger profile versus somebody engaged, and I work at LinkedIn, you're applying for LinkedIn, it actually worked against that person because they were kind of borderline. I had to make a decision. And unfortunately, that person was unable to continue because I had stronger candidates who were more engaged. So make sure you know that this is a view and yours needs to stand out immediately. This is what the recruiters will see. Okay, we're gonna pause there for a second. We'll take some time to breathe. Give me some time to breathe for a second. And then we're gonna switch gears because now we're gonna talk about, so we talked about rocking your profile, but the thing is that your profile works in concert with your engagement on the platform. And this is what happens, and I'm guilty of this too. You build a profile, maybe spend a lot of time on it. Maybe you will after this call. I hope you do, because that's my goal, is for each and every one of you to spend quality time today and over the weekend. By the end of the weekend, you should absolutely have a way more optimized profile. Is that it? Is that really it? This is where I think you can start to turn the engagement you have on the platform into something really tangible, like employment. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about the power of this platform. Let's talk about how your engagement can turn into a tangible opportunity, something that absolutely can change the trajectory of your life, your professional life. So we all know, I think we all know this intuitively, that over half of hires come from a personal connection. That number probably is even higher. So that's why you really need to start connecting. Even if that personal connection started cold, it ends up being a personal connection. I can tell you, I would not be in this seat if I didn't have a former colleague from Deloitte all the way back over a decade ago, refer me to LinkedIn multiple times. I think I applied over 10 times through referral, got 4 interviews or 4 processes. I interviewed for 4 different roles. I got to final rounds twice, and I'm thankful I got to this once. It was a really good funnel if you think about that. It takes that much dedication, especially for a dream company like LinkedIn. You absolutely want to put yourself in that position where each try you have at that, you have the best shot. That's why it starts with a profile, but then you got to continue with this engagement. You'll probably get better over time as well. 85% of jobs get filled by referrals. So again, referral could be a cold, it could start a cold connection. We'll talk a little about that, and then you warm it up. But we know this intuitively. We have to start doing this, and LinkedIn's absolutely the best place to accomplish this. So, of course, we know the power of networking. We know your first degree connections are the people we directly know or have connected with. Second degrees are the people they know. And then the third degrees are the people that the people know they know, right? So you think about the networking effect, you're probably 2 degrees away from over 1 million people. That's crazy, right? That's crazy to think. I think there might be a metric somewhere that actually tell you that. I think I've seen it somewhere. But regardless of that number, it's a lot. If you just tap into a couple of these, it can be very powerful. So say you have a second degree connection. You could have something, you could have, let's call this a cold, quote unquote, invite, somewhere where you didn't know Dan, but you knew Rob. So you sent Dan a invite. Now, when you're sending somebody an invite to connect, don't leave it blank. I get these invites to connect, and unless I know you or have an idea of why you're connecting, honestly, I'll probably ignore it. Somebody added me today, and at first I'm just like, okay, this person works at LinkedIn. Why is this person adding me? I mean, they work at LinkedIn, so fine. And I dig further, like, oh, this person is actually joining our team for a rotation. Cool. Don't make me figure that out. Go and add that in, 2 sentences. Hey, Brian, I'm so excited to join your team for this rotation. We look forward to meeting you next week. Whatever it might be. Make it as simple and as engaging as possible. Leverage the power of this network. So use this strategically. Think of who you have in common. Think about who you may know someone. Of course, you can start with like somebody that may work at, it's a university. Somebody works at university. Maybe somebody who works at a company. Somebody who works at a company. Could be an alum of yours. Think about all those connections. Think about how then you can leverage the network. Then think about how you can take initiative to start to say, here's who I am. Here's why I'm just interested in connecting with you, and make it something appealing to them, right? I personally believe that everybody has 20 minutes to connect with somebody. And some people have cold messaged me, and as long as they do have that intro and say why they want to talk to me, that 20 minutes might turn into a couple hours. They end up being like a mentee. So you never know where that can go. You take that right initiative. Use the alumni tool strategically. So especially us as educators here, folks in higher education, I'm sure we even lean in further into our network in education. But regardless, doesn't really matter if you're an educator, if you're somebody that went to the UCLA like me, and go Bruins, we're on the Final Four. I can't believe it. But nonetheless, you should leverage that connection. It's actually a great time to reconnect with folks from UCLA because we're in the Final Four. Use these opportunities, find ways to reconnect with alums. So here's another example of how you can connect. It's very simple, but if you leverage the network, you leverage the messaging features, you will absolutely find folks who want to connect with you. Informational interviews. So I think you get it. If you think about recruiters, you find somebody who's, if I think about myself as, I guess I'm a recruiter at this very moment. I do have a real day job that has nothing to do with recruiting. But at the end, I'm really excited to find great talent because our team is growing tremendously. And if someone takes this level of initiative, hey, like I saw, a few people have, hey, I saw you have this posting, would love a chance to chat with you for 15 minutes. I'm so interested in this customer experience because I know that building a customer-centric organization is what matters most to every single company. Like if you just add that, you show a little bit of passion, it could be very brief, the opportunities could be endless. Oh, and here's a little tip. Use the job descriptions as of, there's so much language. And I can tell you the language is very intentional. We spend a lot of time putting these job descriptions together. At least we should. If it's if it's kind of a lazy job description, then I think you have a problem. But that's a different story. I think here you can see that there's an example of job description, and then you can go to the company page and you can get a sense of their culture. Now, if you're recruiting for a university, I'm not sure exactly to what degree they're thinking of the university as a company. That might be a separate topic. We may want to work with some member universities to beef up their company pages, because at the end, we're all companies, right? So we want to represent ourselves well on the company side. That's a separate conversation. That's rock your page, I believe. But for rock your profile, I definitely want you to leverage this information as language, as basically feeder for any communications you may be having. All right. Building thought leadership. Each and every one of you are thought leaders. I know it. I absolutely know it, because you are in higher education. And for whatever you've studied, I know I'd want to know something about what each and every one of you does. I think you absolutely need to go out there and show it, especially as somebody in higher education. So what can you do? Well, we gotta know this, but are we doing it? So update something simple, as I saw an article. I have a link. You can post an image and have a brief comment. We do this in other platforms. I don't think people do it as much on LinkedIn, but if you think about the power of the way LinkedIn is the way the feed works, and I'm not an expert on the feed, but I know the way the feed works is the more you engage, the more you'll see other people you never would have known, and you can see some of these become so viral. And you never know what becomes viral. So I suppose it's a numbers game at that point. Then you have publishing. So you can absolutely use the LinkedIn platform to publish an article. You may have an article, you probably have lots of articles already, but because you're using the LinkedIn platform to publish your article on top of whatever else you use, it will be native to LinkedIn. So people can search it, find it, all that. So leverage all these things, especially as folks, a lot of you are experts in your field. Show it, put yourself out there. A lot of stuff on this slide. This can be something I can share with you later, but think about how you can leverage the way in which this platform is designed to build conversation through the posts you have. Again, many means of conversation. You have your profile, which is all about you and getting somebody to really think about you as a professional, as a human being, as a professional who is an expert in your career, in your field, excuse me. Then you have the engagement you have on posts. Then, of course, you have the connections you may have through messaging, through connecting with others, through sending those invitations. Many, many, many ways to leverage this platform. And I know most of us, myself included, only use a sliver of what's already featured. And some people say, oh, do I need premium? I mean, I don't know what LinkedIn wants to say, but I'll say it. You don't need premium. I think it helps you a lot at a certain point, like with InMails, or it comes with LinkedIn Learning. So there are benefits to premium, but as our CEO said, he said this very recently, he said, we want to maximize what we offer for free. We want to make the free platform so enticing, so sticky, like you're going to just want to build upon it and build upon it and build upon it. So leverage this. And of course, when you publish, it becomes part of your profile. You can share it with your network, and it can reach folks you may never have known existed, but you never know who's going to see your post. Finally, gaining knowledge and insights. So I think this is actually an interesting feature, part that folks may or may not be leveraging. Okay, so setting job alerts. Okay, this is the job that I was talking about. This is the one that I'm playing recruiter, you could say. And we're getting a lot of folks interested. A lot of folks interested. If you say we're interested in customer experience at LinkedIn, this is exactly the job alert that you would put on. You can turn it on, see this toggle up here, and you can turn it on for like daily or weekly alerts. You can have an email, you can have a notification, you can have both. Many ways to get that alert. Leverage this. You can. I don't think there's a limit. I'm not sure, but I'd have never reached the limit if there is one. So leverage the fact you have so much. You have so much data, and you have so many insights. There's just so much going on, and I can tell you, I think hiring is increasing significantly. I think we are absolutely at the tail end of the pandemic. Absolutely, this is the opportunity to take advantage of all these resources to find your next play. We call it your next play. Jeff Weiner coined it. Your next play is what you're going to do next, and everybody's going to find their next play through LinkedIn. I'm certain. following companies. So obviously, if you follow LinkedIn, and a little bonus tip, like I actually see whether or not you're following LinkedIn through the recruiter platform. So it just shows it, follower on LinkedIn. It will actually show you the number of folks that they've connected with. Do I use it in my decision making? Maybe in a borderline case. It's not something that I don't put it against you, but it only works for you. It'll work to your benefit if you do follow the company. It will work to your benefit if you've connected with a lot of folks. So it shows just your interest. At the end, and I said this recently, somebody that we gave an offer to, I can train for a lot of things. I can't train for enthusiasm. I can't train for their passion. They have to just get customer experience. They have to get what it is. And yeah, you can learn things like NPS. You can learn CX measurement. You can learn data analytics. But I can't teach passion. I can't teach enthusiasm. That's exactly why you need to put all that in your profile. You need to demonstrate your passion through the way in which you use this platform. And then groups. So say I'm interested in customer experience. Let's just find groups. There's apparently 5,700 groups out there. So add a group, multiple ones. Some of these are public, some of these are private. So many ways to engage. I can tell you, I've only scratched the surface myself. And then you can choose what kind of posts you want to see and not see. The algorithm will help you, will help filter your feed. Make it something that is yours. Make it something that you will see what you want to see. But you definitely have to make sure you do the work to say you want to hide a post. It will actually learn through AI. It will learn what to show you. All right. I think we're at the tail end of this. Follow companies, follow influencers, follow industries, get the inside scoop. So much data, so many insights, so much you can do. We're just scratching the surface. And if you want to take a deeper dive, you can take the Rock Your Profile course on LinkedIn Learning. I think at the moment, anyone can access this, whether or not you have LinkedIn Learning. Try it out. See if you can get access this on your link. I'll send this out as well in the abbreviated deck, but try this out. I hope it works. I don't know if it's going to be live like forever, for folks who don't have LinkedIn Learning, but if it is live now, take it, because Lauren is amazing. She is our champion of Rock Your Profile, and she will take the deeper dive of these nuances. And it's like an hour long. If you want to put 2x speed, you can. All right, so I have spoken a lot. I actually gave you all way more content than I usually do, but I wanted to add a lot of value to you today. So before we get to live coaching, there's a couple of things. Marcia or Jessica, do we have any questions, any top questions we may want to address before we proceed?
We have so many questions. So that was what I was going to say, Brian. Thank you so much for that overview. So we have lots of volunteers. So we're going to keep the Q&A short. I think some of them we can do afterwards online or through through hercjobs.org. So I'm going to take a couple to you that I think are relevant and helpful to the full group. For everybody that asks questions, we are going to try to address as many of those as we can over time on hercjobs.org. So a couple to kick in there. One was from Marina about the benefit of bullets over narrative in your description. Do you have a recommendation on what best works? There's the power of bullets because it's quick, but full sentences add to the narrative. So what's your read on that?
I love that question. There's multiple perspectives you can take. My perspective is you can do one or two things. One is you can make it a full narrative, because at the end, if you think about it, someone's actually spending time on your profile. When I go through a LinkedIn profile, I actually am intentional that I know I'm going to spend time. I don't know how much, but I'm actually trying to get to know this person. Or else I'm just going to read their resume or the top hits like that. When you see the back end of Recruiter, I might just read the top, that headline and their job titles. So that's why you think about how this works, like the psychology behind it. When you write a narrative, you have the chance to build the story, and you build it in a way where you can get someone engaged. And I'm sure there's a lot of storytellers here, especially in higher education. If you feel you're very strong in that, make it a narrative. If you feel like you're not, then you can do both. You can have a short narrative to describe your role, and then you can add some key bullet, like here's some high-level achievements, whatever you want. And then you can add some bullets there too. And then you can obviously leverage your resume as a starting point, because I don't want to overwhelm you. I don't want to overwhelm you and say you have to do all this at once. I would say if you just do the 10 steps alone and you just optimize a bit, you're going to be way farther than many people. So yeah, that gives you some options.
Okay, that's super. And just a side question, more logistics. Folks are asking about the recording. It will be posted earlier next week, and everybody will receive an email when it's posted. Also, keep an eye out because we'll probably have additional opportunities just based on the interest here. There's a question that I think is not a fair question to send to you, so I'll be happy to answer this question with you. And it has to do with recommendations. In higher ed, recommendations are usually a very formal and confidential process. Can you talk a little bit about the value of having a more public recommendation or endorsement?
So I think it's the word recommendation, right? Because specifically in higher ed, whether it's me applying to business school or whether it's it's very specific, I think, to higher ed. So take two separate things, right? So a LinkedIn recommendation is somebody you may have worked with in the past who you may not be, you may or may not have, somebody who can be your advocate, right? Somebody who be your promoter and then just really vouch for you as a person. Versus, I think whether it's a college or graduate application or whether it's a higher ed recommendation, I imagine it could be very thorough, like specific to how you can fit in the role. Because I'm trying to imagine, like, they're very specific roles that require a lot of expertise. Like CX, like customer experience, you need some level of understanding, but I don't need you to be a CX expert. We believe we can actually train for that. What I need to see is, are you passionate? Do you understand it fundamentally, intuitively? And I can see that through your recommendations. If I see some recommendations like, yeah, this person loves customers, this person loves working with customers, I mean, like things like that, those are things I think can absolutely be public. Why wouldn't you want that to be public? You get to decide. I'll leave it up to your discretion.
That's great. And I love that, because it also gives you the opportunity for folks that might not have the bandwidth to do a full formal recommendation, but still show their support. Yeah. Or someone that's like, yeah.
You're not going to get given 2-3 pages. Let me, why don't we take those questions? I'm happy to answer them and go through them separately, like note them. I'd be more than happy to answer questions on the side, because I know we have 18 minutes left and we'll have a couple more things. Is there one more question that's like burning, that's like absolutely like we have to answer right now?
There have been a couple questions about gaps in job postings or in your resume. If you could talk to that, and then while you're doing that, I'm going to switch myself over and make myself the presenter. So go ahead and answer that.
Give it one second before you do that. My only one request is for folks, and I think you have this in the chat, to give the gift of feedback. So all I ask is your feedback. Go to slido.com and use this code. It's a very quick survey. It's going to take you 2 minutes max, just to provide your feedback. I want to hear how this gone, what we can do better. Would love to hear from you. Gaps. Okay, so I think everybody's doing something. I believe so. So I'll give you an example from my background. Between LinkedIn and what I did previously at a company, I did a lot of freelance consulting and coaching, and that's what I put. That's literally what I put in on my LinkedIn. That's what I put. That's what I shared in my interviews. So I think you can put those things. If you're on a sabbatical, you can put that as well. Everyone's doing something. It doesn't have to be with a company. I think that's a great question, because there might be some stigma associated, like I have this gap, or like, oh, I haven't been employed, but what have you been doing? If you're a researcher, like you've been doing something, I'm sure the last year, you've been researching something, talk about it. And you can call it freelance, whatever you want to call it, independent, whatever you want to call it. That's the beauty of the profile. No one's going to judge you, no one's going to judge you, period, but they're going to try to evaluate. So I guess there's a difference there. You get to dictate that story. You tell, I think that it's in Hamilton, they say, you get to tell your story, right? Who gets to tell your story? Why don't you tell your story? Anyways, so we have a few of these queued up. I'm really excited. Let's take a look.
We have so many, but and thank you everyone for volunteering. Keisha, you're up first. You're our first volunteer. Can I check if your audio is working? We'll give you a second.
Sure. Hi.
Oh, there you are. Hi.
Hi.
Okay, Brian, go ahead and just tell me where to navigate.
Sure. Well, first of all, briefly tell me a bit about you, Keisha. Give yourself a little intro.
So I'm an operations project manager for the School of Business at Malloy College currently. I also do some adjuncting at the college as well. Um, and I don't know. What else do you want to know?
That's enough because I think that
Ah,
gives me some things. Great. Thank you. First
hmm
off, I love always starts with a great photo. Love a great photo. This is a great example of photo that really showcases a personality, right? We all know this, but
hmm
some of us may or may not. It's up to you. Like you decide, and and everybody likes everything, right? So you're not trying to please everybody. You're just trying to get the attention of folks who absolutely need. And I think that in the world, that's the way it works, right? So I think you have a very engaged photo. It's great. I love that you're using the open to work feature there too, because it's a relatively new feature that I
hmm
think just it actually works on the back end too. Like it will show in the recruiter side, and it's never used against you. Never used against you. So your name, I would recommend. Now, granted, this is my personal take. You can take it or not. A lot of letters may or may not be a good thing because the reason why is I actually think some of that could actually go below into your headline. You can add some of that there at the very end of your headline rather than adding everything into your name. It's just visually something that I'm just curious what your all take is. My take is maybe you're an MBA and you have one other certification, but you can add other certifications there too. And there's sections for certifications as well in your profile. But of course, you have
Right.
what you mentioned here. So like what are you an adjunct professor of? Like
Uh,
what are you doing? Like you don't have to answer it here, but I'm just saying like put it in there.
okay.
Put it in there, add a narrative around it. I gave you my example. It's not the only example. Your background photo, your cover photo, I don't really see much. Like I get it's part of the logo, but I'd rather see
Uh-huh.
Keisha in action as a professor, like here I am, like doing and whatever you kind of want your next play to be. Perhaps think about, oh, I don't know what do you want your next play to be? Like at least one opportunity.
Um, well, I'd like to work in student affairs ultimately.
Okay,
Um, so I think what you're saying makes sense, like showing me in
working with
action
students.
with
Yeah,
students. Right,
right,
right.
perfect. You can
Okay.
have you can if you find the logo in the background, you can add all that stuff too. You can have a little photo shoot with someone, like make it
Mm-hmm.
natural, but think of it creatively. So you can it's like marginal steps, but that marginal improvement will make such a big difference. So
Yeah.
great. In the interest of time, I'm gonna actually just leave it at the postcard level because I want to get to as many of these as possible. Do you have any questions?
No, I just wanted your feedback because I'm always trying to improve my LinkedIn profile as much as possible. So thank you.
You have a lot of content here. I'm sure if you go down below, if you just
Uh-huh.
take some of the things we talked about today, like if you're talking about student affairs, all that, I mean, I think you're a shining example of somebody in higher education wanting to teach the future of higher education, right? So think about it
Mm-hmm.
that way. If you add some of that language in your summary, or even there, like I'm obsessed with inspiring the future of higher education. Blah blah blah. You get yada yada yada, right? Like I,
Right.
if I were hiring for that, I'd be like, yeah, Keisha's. I want to talk to Keisha. Like that's all I'm trying to do. I want to talk to you. I want to
Got it.
connect with you. Either direction. You think about that in that way. Boom.
Thanks
Thank
so
you, Brian.
much.
And we did have, thank you, Keisha, for being our volunteer, first volunteer. I'm going to queue up the next person, Kristen. If you're there, I'm going to take you off mute. But I did have a question come up that I think we want to hit, which is the open to work option. Can you just mention quickly, Brian, where people would go to select that?
It's in your settings. I don't know the exact setting like in the
Settings.
top of my
Okay,
head,
that's
but
good
it's in your
enough. We'll just go
settings.
with settings.
It's in your settings at the top. It's so visible. You'll find it. Like it's not going to be hard to find. But once you
Okay,
show it and you
great.
click it, it will be obvious that it will show up. Yep.
Okay, super. And
Kristen,
it sounded like it was helpful on the back end. We have Kristen. Kristen, are you on audio? I just want to check that before we jump into yours.
Yep, hopefully it's working.
Okay, yep,
can
we
hear you
can hear
loud and
you.
clear.
Thank you.
Tell me about yourself.
So I've been a manager with the Executive Development Center for about 5 years. I've worked at Willamette forever, since 2007. I was also a student here. Yeah, I run programs, so I do all of the work. I'm the only employee. So everything that goes into offering classes, I do.
Everything that offers what, sorry?
Everything that goes into offering the programs that we run out of the center, I do, except for teaching.
Okay, so you do a lot of stuff that's not being showcased here. Like,
yeah.
It sounds like you are the everything woman, and you have a lot, and you have a versatile skill set, and you have so many transferable skills that aren't at all being featured up here.
Correct.
So let's find some things we can do, right? So first of all, I just remember Oregon Trail, so I think that's like the Willamette Valley, correct? Like I don't know, I think it sounds familiar. But yeah. So first off, great photo. That's perfectly fine. I love that it's more casual too. But no cover photo. So send me an idea after like watching this. Like, what's something you can put in the background?
So if it's personality wise, it would be an outdoors photo. Right, because I spend all day in the office at a computer, so that's not very interesting.
Yeah, but I think you already have an outdoors photo in your main photo.
So I'm not sure.
So I kind of get. Well, you said that you are the everything woman, right? You said that you basically work behind the scenes, and you do work with students, but not specifically teaching the students, right? So it might be similar to Keisha, but you think about like how you can show yourself in action, or how you even, a very simple version of this. I know it's, COVID times, but pre-COVID, you probably did a lot of fairs and stuff. You probably have a picture of you in front of a booth, things like that. I mean, that's better than nothing. And then you think about like what you've done, like you're part of helping the next generation of educators, or what have you, or you're in this business school, the next business leaders, what have you. Like there are things that you've done in front of people, or you've worked on. So you can think creatively there. You could go the route of I'm outdoorsy and that's something I do too. You could go that route, and that does give you it will showcase your personality. If you go that route, which I'm not saying you shouldn't, I do think that's a great route you can go. I definitely think you need to then leverage that tweet-sized headline to say what you just told me. You basically told me that you're somebody that manages end-to-end executive development at Willamette University, right? Am I pronouncing it right? Willamette?
Yeah,
Willamette?
They help people by saying Willamette, damn it.
Willamette, damn it. Okay, Willamette. So there you go. Boom, 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 right? I think you can say end-to-end. I'm thinking off the cuff, like end-to-end. And as a customer experience, like you're literally going through the journey, right? Like these are folks who are coming in, they have some experience, right? They're looking to get some sort of graduate education or some certification, whatever it might be, and you work at them end to end in a way. And I'm translating to customer experience. You're going through the whole customer journey, or in this case, their graduate journey, I suppose. Then you can start to look at it from that lens. You impact every single touch point there.
Right.
That's so powerful.
Yeah, and it's just trying to summarize it into fewer words. So really I need to hire a writer, but
I think you got it. I think, well, I mean, I'm not a writer, but if you can use some of the words I start with, and you can ask some of your friends. I mean, you're well connected. I don't think you need to hire a writer. You can just ask some of your friends, hey, this is what I'm thinking. I just want this to be very pithy, very concise, but something that's engaging, and it's tweet sized. Boom. And then you can obviously work on everything below. Right. I know you have the content, but have the confidence that you have the content.
Thank you.
This is Kristen. I'm going to jump in and also say I have a feeling that you'll probably need a couple, and maybe to rotate it out to have one that talks about the things that you're doing now, the full spectrum of that end to end, like Grant was saying. But maybe there's one when you're more in a looking for new opportunities role, and that's more directed to things that you want to be doing, that you can highlight your strengths. So I say write two.
I love it. That's why this is so dynamic. It's a living, breathing portfolio versus like something you do when you sign up, kind of like forget about it until you need a job. at that point, you're kind of like, oh, not only you forgot about it, but it's there in the back burner. And poof. So I think we have time for one or two more because our time flew.
I know.
Great. Hello.
Okay, I'm on audio to make sure you see the chat box for the slido.com link with the, so please make sure to do that. For him, take the time to work with us, so we want to make sure we're giving back in that small way. Glennie, let's check your audio. And Kristen, thank you.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, great.
Perfect.
All right, so why don't we just scroll just a little bit down so I can read some of the audio. Not too far, just a little bit.
There you go.
So I can see the postcard. Let me see her. Let me see her as well. Scroll a little bit up. There you go. Perfect. So without even saying anything, right? I kind of want to do this the other way because you have the about section right up here. Again, you're somebody that looks like you have a ton of experience end to end. You're an operations person. You're somebody that understands higher education operations. You're somebody that clearly has a lot of different nuanced experiences. So my question to you is, how does that transfer to your next play?
So my goal is to probably stay within higher education at some point, and see if there are any opportunities for growth. So what I'm trying to do now is hone in on my skills. So I know in the about sections, I have a lot of, like you mentioned, things that I've kind of dipped my toes in. My focus here with my job is finance, human resources, and facilities management. So those are the three areas that I kind of want to focus on moving forward.
Great. So I think there's always a need for folks who just get the nuance of higher education operations, right? Like it's, I'm sure, a very niche field relatively. So this is a rhetorical question. If you have more time, I would ask you and engage in conversation, but think about like why that matters so much to you. And it likely matters to you partially, my hypothesis, because higher education like made an impact on your life. And you might have even a personal story of like how you saw the way things are run, like how you want to optimize. Like there must be some little tidbit. I'm not saying it's like the Hall Theater, but it might be something in a realm of like something that inspired you, right? So I think it's something where you can take your about section next level. I love that you have this. Like you have clearly a lot of key domain experience. I think you can turn this a bit more to a narrative and then add your domain experience below. Because like if I'm interested in Glennie first, then I want to understand, okay, what are her skills? What are her experiences? Okay, she understands contract negotiations. Well, that would be useful for us, I can tell you. Acquisitions, budget management, all these things, right? Most people use this space up the top there, which is fine, but I think my perspective is to make it even greater. Use it as something like, I get the person, now let's get the skill set. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Great, and you can take everything else that we talked about before with the background photo and the headline. Love your photo. This is actually a great example of a very clear photo. I can see your personality. It's not overly formal. Like being higher education, probably not wearing a suit and tie. Great example of a photo. So honestly, that's the number one thing. I know like some people think other things are number one thing. Literally, the photo is your number one thing, and you nailed that. So great. Looking forward to seeing where you go from here. Thank you, Glennie. I think we ran out of time. Oh my gosh.
We ran out of time, but it does seem like there are a lot of themes that are coming through. Obviously, photo and background, and I think that you've really changed how I think about the background, not just as like that nice thing that's good to look at, but really capitalizing on telling the story through it. And I am going to work on my headline. I know the whole HERC team will be doing our headline.
I'm looking forward to that. We'll connect later, and I'm gonna see you better. We're connected on LinkedIn, so feel free to connect with me. Feel free to connect with me. I'd be more than happy to connect with you. And till next time, I really enjoyed this. I hope you have too.
Wonderful. And again, everyone, that the webinar will be posted on hercjobs.org early next week. You'll receive an email, and as I mentioned, all those questions that are coming in as much as possible. We'll try to answer those on hercjobs.org. And Bryant, a huge thank you from the HERC team and family, and we hope to see you again here again soon. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Bye.